Okay, thanks. Well, thanks, Floyd, for having me, and thanks for all that you guys do in the volunteer fire departments. We just this week, the House passed it's called SAFER, but I should know what it is. Safety and Adequate Fire Emergency Responders Bill, or something. I don't remember all the acronyms, but it's federal money to help out our fire departments and to put out the fire grants. So we just authorized that for the next 5 years and reauthorized it with smaller matching pieces for our local communities so that people can afford the stuff they need for their fire departments. So I am Scott Murphy. Let me introduce my staff that's here with me today. Rob Schultz is my district director who works out of our office in Clifton Park. Mark Luciano works out of our office in Glens Falls, which is probably the closest office for people, and they work on any kind of constituent service issues. So if people have an issue with veterans benefits or Social Security issues or IRS or immigration or anything else, federal grants, stimulus money, where did it go, how did it impact us, those are the guys to reach out to, and they're there on a regular basis to help you work on it. We have, at any given time, we have 300 or 400 cases of individual people in the district that we're working on across all the different agencies of the federal government, mainly just helping people kind of get through the bureaucracy. But there's like secret people who actually answer the phone when you call from the Congress office, congressional office, and so often that's a big help and can help get things done. And so that's what. Did you have a case?
That was the first question.
I know you don't have a lost puppy because you have your puppy right there. So I've been traveling around the 20th Congressional District includes 138 towns. So one of my goals as your congressional representative is just to get to all the towns every year and just be open to talking to people and get their feedback on what's going on and what they want to see me do differently, or maybe even what they like about what I've been doing. If they have a moment for that before they tell me what they want to see me do differently, that would be great. And just hear what's going on in the local communities and what people want to make sure that we're aware of. So I usually start out, I'll give you a couple minutes on my first 6 months in office. It's a new thing for me. As most of you know, I was a small businessman and an entrepreneur in prior life, and so this is my first time in public life. It's been about 6 months. It's been a very busy time to be in Congress. At least that's what everyone that's been there longer than me says. They say we've never been working on this many different things at once, and that has good and bad, but it's obviously a lot to learn. So I serve on the Agriculture Committee and the Armed Services Committee. So the way the House is organized, there's 435 members, and we each serve on a couple different committees, and that becomes an area where you have more detailed knowledge and expertise and more responsibility. So on the Ag Committee this year, been doing a lot of work on the dairy world, which obviously people here in Washington County feel very clearly, and for those of you who don't know, we've been having prices this year the worst since 1979 for dairy farmers, and it's been a real crisis. So we've done a lot of work with Secretary Vilsack to get the USDA buying some dairy products and trying to support prices, to turn on what's called the Dairy Export Program to try to incentivize and drive some more exports to sell more of our dairy products overseas. And most recently worked with Senators Schumer and Senator Gillibrand to get $350 million included in the Ag Appropriations Bill to help dairy farmers. So $60 million of that will go to buy cheese and try to support the market, and there's $290 million that's going out in direct payments to farmers just to try to help them get through this crisis this year. And that's supposed to come out in the middle of December, according to the USDA in our conversations about 2 days ago. There's still a little bit of a battle in terms of how they're going to distribute it. Will it go only to small farmers or a certain amount per farm? Some of the farms in the West, in Idaho and California, and their representatives would like it to be based on the number of cattle because they have thousands of cattle, so their farmers would get more money that way. It's not going to be based on that, but there's some negotiation going on still. We would like it to go per farm because we have small farms here, and that way our farmers would get more help, and I think that's who we're really trying to help, and not just the big farmers in the West. But there's, if you can understand, the people who represent them have a different opinion than I do, and that one's kind of straightforward. So that's what we're working on the dairy side. Armed services, as you know, we've got 2 active wars going on right now, so we're talking about a lot of issues overseas on a regular basis. Iraq, we're winding down there. We're on a plan to get our troops out. We've seen already through the course of this year a big reduction in both our active duty military and our contractors. I think most people don't realize at the beginning of this year we had as many contractors on the government payroll in Iraq as we did active duty military. I don't know the numbers right off the top of my head, but it's about 170,000 soldiers and 170,000 civilian contractors there at the beginning of this year, and those numbers are down to about 125,000 each. So we are shrinking the footprint. We had a hearing just recently with a bunch of generals on the logistics of getting our equipment back out. Where do the planes come? Where do the trucks go? How do we actually get our troops back out of Iraq? So people often ask me, is it really happening? Well, the hearings we're having now are with the logistics officers on how they're making it happen. So I think it is really happening, and I think, you know, we're leaving Iraq in a much stabler place than we would have in the near past, and I think we can hold our head high in terms of where we're leaving things as we're getting our troops home, and hopefully it will continue. Afghanistan, obviously, is the one that we're going to be talking about a lot more in Congress. I'll give people my sense of what's gone on. President Obama came in and in the first part of the year said, here's what I think the strategy should be. I think that's the president's role. He set the strategy. He hired General McChrystal and said, General, tell me what you need to execute that strategy successfully. Over the summer, you've heard General McChrystal came back with his report. You've heard probably in the press this question, are we going to send 40 to 70,000 more troops to Afghanistan? And the president's thinking about that. And there's been some criticism, well, is he second-guessing the generals? I don't think that's what he's doing. What I think is happening is he's saying, okay, I told them this is the orders. They told me what they needed. And now I think he's, to some degree, kind of second-guessing himself, saying, is that really what we want to achieve? Because now I recognize what it's going to cost us in time and treasure to do that. And he's going to decide if that's really what he wants the orders to be and where he wants the strategy to be. I think we need to do that quickly because we've got people on the ground, and we in Congress will then respond to that and make sure, you know, our responsibility is to make sure they have the equipment, the ammunition, and the support, the tools they need to be successful in executing that strategy and executing what the president and the military generals then say they want to do to execute the strategy he comes up with. So that's what we're working on armed services. A lot of other stuff, Iranian secret nuclear program I'm learning about, not something I knew a lot about before I got this job. I know a lot more about it now. It's a scary thing to imagine the Iranians with nuclear weapons, especially when you see the stuff that their president says in the press about, you know, annihilating Jewish people and that the Holocaust never happened. He's not a stable guy, or he may be stable, but he's not a sensible guy, and it's scary, the stuff that we learn about them. So we are working to keep them from having a nuclear weapon and trying to get the rest of the world to join us in that effort. Big one I'm sure people are here to talk about, and I will end on this before I open it up to questions. I'm sure people are interested in the health care bill and the health reform bill because that's obviously been a lot of the press for the last several months. So my approach, I got involved obviously right from the beginning. We were working on health in July. I came back in the month of August. I didn't have to travel to Washington. So I traveled around and had 20 plus town hall meetings in communities all over the 20th district, and we did one in Granville, not far from here, and had a lot of people come out and share their opinions. There was a lot of agreement about some of the problems in the system. Insurance reform, getting rid of pre-existing condition exclusions, getting rid of lifetime caps on benefits. There was agreement that didn't make sense. Why buy insurance if you get really sick, they won't cover you? I mean, it's like uninsurance. It didn't make any sense at all. A lot of consensus that we wanted to get health insurance that would cover basically everybody in our society. Not everybody agreed with that, but pretty good consensus that we'd be better off if everybody had that. They didn't end up in the emergency room getting their primary care, but actually they went to a doctor for their primary care, and they had an insurance system that they were paying into and that was paying the bills. Needing to invest in primary care doctors and in prevention, some of those things a lot of agreement around. One of the biggest things that there was widespread agreement on is that the cost of health insurance is one of the real problems, that it's going up so fast for our farmers, small businesses, big businesses, for our county government, our towns, everybody that pays those bills is seeing their premiums just ratcheted up, and they really wanted us to do something as part of reform to slow that growth. And they'd love it if we could cut the premiums, but I didn't never think we were going to actually cut it. But if we could just keep it from going up so fast, I think people would really feel a lot more control around the system. So those were the things that I looked at as what we were trying to do with healthcare reform. I think the House bill did some of them very well and didn't do some of them nearly well enough. But it did a good job on the insurance reform, getting rid of lifetime caps and pre-existing conditions. But it did a good job of investing in primary care docs and prevention, putting an exchange in place to help people be able to, if they are individuals and have lost their job, to help them have a place to go to buy insurance. A public option, which there was a lot of debate about. I was in favor of that, and I thought that was an okay way for us to have a not-for-profit option for people that want to have a not-for-profit insurance option. So I thought in terms of